All right, welcome everybody. We are going to be going over neck restoration treatment, and this is day 7 of the Wolfe Non-Surgical course in Stuart, Florida. So, when we are doing the neck treatment, we're going to be covering from pretty much C7, T1, T2 area to C1 and the occipital condyles. And so those occipital condyles, we call them the occipital eyes, and they're just those two little bumps you feel on either side of the back of your head. And if you kind of went through from where your eye socket is, that's going to be where that is. In general, I don't want us, when we're touching, because that's going to be our origin and our insertion, I don't want us going too hard right now on the occiput, because we're doing the occipital treatment after this in itself, because we keep all the treatments separate. So be mindful when you're touching on that. Just go over the motions, but don't really do it. But really work around C7. So we have C7 right here, and we have C1 up here, and that's going to be where I feel that soft tissue right under that ledge. That's going to be right where the spine is going into that brainstem insertion. When I'm doing the neck, I want to do one side at a time, and I'm going to finish that side off completely before I do the other, because it's a very small area, and it's pretty sensitive, so once I start peeling that tissue apart, I want to finish it off, because then the inflammation will start to set in. So we're going to touch on origin insertion. That's going to be C7 and then C1 in those occipital condyles. After I've done that, it doesn't really matter now what side of the neck you start on. If they have one side that's really retracted, start on the other side to open it up a little bit to maybe give them some leeway. But if they just say they have neck tension, a lot of times it'll be hard for them to tell you exactly what side it's referring to. Like if it's more on one side than the other, because people are just like, my neck is tight. So just pick a side. I'm going to start from C1 or C7. There's no right or wrong because it's a small area. So I'm going to be going up and down, stripping it many times. Because I'm going to get 15 minutes on one side and 15 minutes on the other. And then we're going to head to the ground and work the sides. Because on the back here, we have our trapezius muscles that insert up here. We have our sternocleidomastoids. And then more so on the front right here where you can grab these guys, that's your scalene muscles. And that's what helps move our neck from side to side. So, after I've done origin insertion, I'm going to be scaling off the top of the spine, but don't jump over the spine. Like, that'll feel really irritating. And so I want you coming off the actual wall from the side of the spinous process, kind of where the transverse processes are, the little bones that hang off those sides. And so I'm going to be pulling everything off the spine, and when I'm pulling off, can anybody tell me what I'm using?
No.
Flexion. When we're pulling off a bone ledge, I can't have extension because then my forearm's going to be grinding over top of the spine. So if I'm scooping into a bone ledge, what do I need?
Extension.
There we go. Okay, so... So, I'm starting from C1 or C7, it doesn't matter, because you're going to be working up and down, up and down. And it is face to face and face to side a bit. I am more on a 45-degree angle, opening up the muscle belly because I want to pull through the striations. And so, starting from C7, I'm going to scale my way off the side of the spine, all the way up to C1, and all the way back down. And I'm going to do that for about 3 minutes. Then I'm going to flip myself around, and I pulled off with flexion. Then I come to the other side, but I'm still going to be working on the left side of her neck. And now it's going to be the extension. And I'm going to be scaling from C7 to C1 up and down a couple times. Going to be about another 3 minutes. Then I'm going to flip myself back around. When I go to have you guys do it in the class, because I have everything timed out for you, you're getting about 3 minutes per position, about 12 minutes per side with the effleurage massage and everything. It should be about 15 minutes per side of the neck, 30 minutes in the chair. When I go to do a neck, I naturally hop back and forth. That's too necessary for me. So I might do that like 6 or 7 times. But I want to say when you're doing a neck, I want you to at least hop back and forth twice. Because then I know I pulled one way, I pulled the other, I pulled one way, I pulled the other. But you can do it more if you feel it's natural for you. So don't I'm going to be giving out the exact time for 2 full switches on one side. But if you feel like you want to hop back and forth more, go for it. Because it's like that accordion. One way, it's always going to be the same when I'm working with that muscle tissue. One way, it's going to be smooth. The other way, I'm going to get slivers. And so we're always going to get a better direction. So after I've hopped back and forth on one side of that neck, twice on either side, I'm just going to stay where I was at on that the second time pulling off, and I'm going to place my elbow on the other side, and I'm going to start with that extension, scooping in. And I'm going to work from C1 down to C7, about 3 minutes, flip myself around, and then I'm going to be pulling off. And then I'm going to flip back around after another 3 minutes, pull in with extension, and then flip back around one last time, pulling off this side of the spine with flexion. The treatment in the chair is now done. Then we would go and finish off with a nice airplane landing, effleurage massage. I'm going to tell them, because the neck is a pretty vulnerable area. People shoulder up a lot. We hold too much tension. As that binds, a lot of toxicity hangs out around C7. C7 is kind of like your control center because it also connects down to your brachial plexus. People can get numb and tingling in their hands. Anybody who gets like vertigo, dementia, brain fog, spinal issues, spinal surgery, this is going to be amazing for them. And so, now that I'm done here, we finish off with a nice effleurage massage. I always tell them, get up when you feel ready and you feel kind of like in your breath and you're solid, because some people go to get up too quick and they're lightheaded now because they have a lot more blood flow. So take your time whenever you're ready. I didn't really work on her, so she's probably good to go. And we're going to head to the ground. I'm just going to steal this guy. All right, so positioning on the ground. I'll just drop that right here. So this is where a little bit of you gotta have a little bit of flexibility within your hip flexors. If you're really stiff within hip flexors, this is where we gotta go ambidextrous and use a little bit of both elbows. And I'm gonna show you all positions. So now that me and her are coming down to the ground, you can do this on a massage table or on the ground. We're both sitting the same direction. I have a towel for my lap for separation. I'm going to bring this leg back. This is where I say you need at least 90-degree angle of flexibility within those hips to have one position comfortable, because there's always going to be one position where if I go to use my right elbow, they should get down, I'm coming across my body now. So that's putting tension on me. So I bring that leg back. And then she rests like so on my leg. Because then, and I want her just before my kneecap at the thinnest part of my leg, to where, see how this is nice, open, and draped? If you feel like somebody's still holding a little bit of tension, I'm going to put pressure right here on her head, and I'm going to say, take a deep breath in, and relax. No, right before it. Yeah, there you go. And so now that just helped elongate just that much more. And that much more is going to help me because it's not a large area. And I want to make sure that her hand is on her side holding her buttocks, because we naturally have our arms here. And this is like a subconscious thing to kind of shoulder up and hide from the treatment and kind of protect yourself. So we just try to ask them to like stay nice and open. Throughout the treatment, yes, they will start, because it gets a little intense, they'll start to kind of shoulder up again. Stop, that's when we take our effleurage massage, we readjust them, and then you go through it. So, on the side now, we have origin and insertion again. Origin is going to be the side of the temporal bone, and I don't want you guys going too hard on the temporal bones. We're doing the occiput right after. If you were doing just a neck treatment, I want you to come into the temporal bones and occipital area, but it's not like the focus point of our treatment. So, I'm going to touch on insertion, which is going to be around that temporal bone. I'm going to come back down to the origin. You're not going to be working directly on C7. It's all the way through here. But I know right where the kind of trap meets the beginning of the neck, that's where C7's lying back here. So I just want to be on the side of where the insertion is on the side of it. So I touch on origin and insertion. And sitting kind of face to face right now, I'm going to be pulling vertically up and in towards me. What's your question, Stephen?
That's right here.
Yeah, so you feel C7, remember C7? Come right off of it to the corner of your trap, and that's going to be right the shoulder girdle, right where the trap's meeting the base of the neck. Yeah. So you're not going to be working directly on cervical 7, but I want you in the area of where it is. And so I'm going to loosen off the origin, insertion, and then I'm going to be pulling vertical, because I know that her muscle tissue is inserting this way. Some of the muscles on the neck kind of curve around a little bit, but I know it's coming up and down. Nothing's growing out to the sides. I always kind of say that because it's good for our brain to think. And so I want to pull vertical first, opening up those lymph channels in the side of the neck. As I'm doing that, then I'm going to go horizontal. When you go horizontal, you need a lot of extension. You have too much flexion and you are going to jump over cords and it's going to feel really weird. And I kind of have my guide hand always here, just protecting directly over top of the trachea, because I know once my elbow, I start to feel, once my forearm touches my index finger, that's as far as I'm working. Because I don't want to hit it. You're not going to kill them because you're not putting a crazy amount of pressure on. We're literally lovingly layering this tissue. But you hit them a little bit, they're going to be like, oh, okay, well, that's weird. It's like when we go to learn the non-surgical facelifts, we need to have a super pinpoint technique. It's not going to hurt them, but it'll hurt for the second if you bang them in the eyeball. It's sensitive. So, I'm going to touch on origin, insertion, and then you're going to vertically open up that muscle tissue on the side of the neck, working my way forward, and then I'm going to go horizontal and open that tissue like so. Once I've done that technically from face to face, I'm going to flip myself around. She stays. And see, now my right leg though is closest. My right leg is closest to her butt. I don't need to put a leg down her torso. But when she goes to flip over, I'll be able to do it on, like she's going to rotate over after I do this side, and I'm going to start working the second side of the neck. But then I got to flip over again, and so my right leg, or my left leg will be coming down her torso. So, I already touched on origin insertion, you don't need to do it again, but now I'm pulling everything down, because I'm going to be working like so, and then in towards me. As I open up with that extension, you're going to be pulling kind of from the spine towards the trachea. After this side is done, she's going to flip over, I stay, and then it's a new side. She's looking up a little bit too much, so just adjust them to where you think is the best, and I can see it all relaxes here. I'm going to touch on origin insertion. I'm going to vertically work, and then I'm going to horizontally work. Same thing that I did on the other side. And this is where I'll show you if like somebody's not flexible in their hips, but I flip around, and I would just put my left leg down their torso, and then tuck my right leg in. Once again, same thing. But if you're not flexible and this doesn't feel comfortable for you, you're just going to go left leg with left elbow. And then you're going to work it like so, pulling down and in towards you.
But much easier to get if you open your...
It's your dominant elbow. Because I feel like I can do really good work with both because I'm pretty ambidextrous after my motorcycle accident. But I still prefer my right. Like, I still know I get the crazy results with my right. My left is like a pinpoint to kind of break something up smaller because over time I've kind of created this ball over here, and so it does more of my heavy lifting. This is for like small specific areas. It has a little bit more of a point to it. So I kind of change it up. They're different tools.
Okay.